Hello and good evening, and welcome to this evening's Queen's Table here on Pageant Land. And we have another very special guest. We have Miss Great Britain, Alice. How are you?
Hello, I'm really good, thank you. How are you doing?
Oh, very, very excited. It's pageant week, so I'm
Yeah,
excited. Also a bit sad as well, but for obvious
I'm not surprised.
reasons. But it is, yeah. I'm not talking about handover this week. Not talking about it.
No,
But anyway, it is so good to see you. And we have interviewed you on Pageant Land before, and I remember saying, like last time, all the best of luck from all of us for Miss Great Britain. And now look, you are Miss Great Britain. How
it really
exciting!
were.
Oh, it was brilliant watching your face. I mean, your crowning moment was absolutely lovely, and I love the dress too.
Yeah,
Beautiful gown, beautiful
the-
gown.
it was the most incredible thing I've ever worn, and I don't think I'll ever wear anything like it ever again. It's just going to live in my wardrobe for the rest of its days.
Get it out for special occasions. You just wear it around the house at Christmas. You'll be all right.
I mean, I'm going to make a wedding dress look really subtle when I get married eventually. So
Yeah, just wear it to the wedding. You'll be all right.
you get
When
another
you
use.
eventually get married, yeah. I mean, like it was just so stunning. The color, the cut, everything about it just screamed pure elegance. I loved it,
Thank
and I love blue,
you.
as you know. I think it was a very big wow moment when you walked out on that stage.
Yeah. I had such a specific vision in mind for it. So for me, I knew all the individual components that I really wanted. And in the end, I thought to myself, I'm going to have to get it custom made, aren't I? And I thought, oh no, there goes my bank balance. But do you know what? It's the best thing that I did. And I always say this to girls when they're buying evening dresses or they're thinking about, what do you want to wear? Find the things that make you feel good. I've never felt that good. And I mean, hopefully I'll feel that good again. But it was just one of those moments where I knew what suited me, colours, cuts, fit, everything. I was like, and this is it. This is her.
Yeah, that's it. I think if you feel good, it shows on stage as well. If you feel good in something
Yeah.
and you wear the dress, not the dress wears you, you wear the dress, and it's
Well, yeah.
it looks stunning, and it brought
Thank
out your
you.
personality as well on stage. So
Thank
you
you.
got there. You are
I
Miss Great
did.
Britain, which is incredible. Absolutely
Thank you.
delighted for you. So let's start off by talking a little bit about your Miss Great Britain journey, sort of how it started and where you are now.
So it started actually in 2024. I'd just come off the back of doing another pageant. To be honest, I started doing pageants when I was 17 and I did one pageant. And then unfortunately, my mum passed away a few months later before I got the chance to go and do another pageant, even though I'd already signed up. I'd actually signed up to do Miss Teen Great Britain. So I'd already caught the pageant bug very early on. But because life sometimes throws these curveballs our way, I didn't actually compete at all for 8 years. Didn't even think about it. A crown was the last thing on my mind until eventually I was thinking to myself, do you know what? I would really love to have a hobby. Being honest, I'd worked as a London lawyer for a few years and didn't have much spare time and had relocated back down to Southampton and just thought, oh, do you know what? I'd love a hobby and I'd love to meet some other girls as well because it's really hard I was at the time I was 26. It's really hard to meet other women unless you work with them. And hats off to the netball girls, but I am unfortunately not a netball girl. Team sport is not my thing. So I did another pageant, and I think there's a lot to be said about finding the pageant that's the right fit for you. Just wasn't the right fit for me. And not long after, Kirsty Fletcher, who's the regional director for the Surrey Heat and the London Heat. I mean, she's got loads more, but the year I entered, she was the director for Surrey and London. And she said, oh, have you ever thought about doing Miss Great Britain? And I said, well, funny you say that, because I think it's the only other system that at the moment I've got an interest in doing, because a very good friend of mine who I actually did my first ever pageant with, Larissa Palmerhurst, had just won the Ms title. And I thought, okay, well, if Larissa likes it, then surely it must be a good system. So I entered the Surrey Heat with about 6 weeks to go, because in Miss Great Britain, we have so many regional heats around the UK. And if you want to get to the national final, you have to earn your spot by doing a regional heat. So entered Surrey, had no idea what Miss Great Britain involved or just how incredible all the girls were. So I ended up coming fourth. And I was so proud of myself because there was 30 women in this regional heat. And I just thought, God, they're all amazing. Like, to come fourth, I'm just so happy with that. But Kirsty said to me after I'd done Surrey, she said, someone's dropped out of London and there's a spare place. Do you fancy it? And I thought, okay, well, I'd love to come back and try again, but I'm not sure I'm going to win because everyone's so amazing. So I'll just go for the experience. I'll throw everything I've got at it and we'll just have the best time, because there's only about 10 days to go. Really, really short window. Very surprised to walk away with the Miss London crown at the end of the night. So I actually won the London heat, and then went on to the national final of Miss Great Britain in October. So it was about 3 months later. But I went about the national completely the wrong way. I put so much pressure on myself. I think I was almost trying to conform to someone else's vision. I was thinking, what should I wear? Or, what type of person should I be? And everything that could have gone wrong at nationals went wrong. I sat down for my interview, said the first couple of sentences that I planned to say, and then the rest of my interview just completely left my body. And I just was like, I don't know what I'm saying right now, but it is not what I planned. And when your interview doesn't go quite to plan, you have to really be strict with yourself to not let that run away with you. I did not do that. So I let the whole of my performance run away with me. I tripped not once, but twice on stage on finals, and just was no surprise to me when I didn't place in the top 10 on the night. But I went home and I thought to myself, I've really got more to give here. And you have those moments where you think, am I the right fit for the system? And when we got our scorecards back, I actually found out I didn't even place in the top half of girls. So I wasn't even in the top 20. And I thought, oh, surely that's a sign for me that maybe I'm not what they're looking for. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, I've got so much more to give. And that wasn't me at my best. And before I walk away from the system where, I love it. I love Miss Great Britain. No matter where I go, if I know there's Miss Great Britain people there, I know I'm going to have a good time. So I thought, well, give it one more go. And I got this blue notepad and I literally wrote Miss Great Britain 2025, 2026. Whenever I do interviews, I always think I should have it, but it's downstairs. I thought to myself, okay, who do I want to be next year when I step on that stage? And how do I become her in the next year? And I worked so hard. I did everything I could. I really dialed into who I was and thought about elevating that alongside the brand of Miss Great Britain. I wasn't trying to be a Miss Great Britain that we'd already had. I was going to do it, and if it was going to work for me, I was going to do it my own way. And all of the queens are so different actually when you get to know them and you get to know the sorts of things they're passionate about, that I thought, well, I'll be myself and we'll see what happens. And then fast forward to October last year and it happened.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that though. And I love the way that you've explained that. I think a lot of people do this when they first start pageants. You kind of just get this thing in your head where you think, actually, do I need to be like this? Should I wear this, or do I do this? Rather than, this is me and this is all you need. And I think the more you do pageants and stuff, you do just realize, actually, I'm good enough. This is who I am. I don't need to change for anyone. And I think as soon as you start showing the true you, then that's when the magic happens. I'll completely relate to that completely. And it was a wonderful.
Thank you. Well, I was just going to say, and I think as well, if you do go on and win when you're pretending to be someone else, it must be really hard work spending a year pretending to be someone that you're not.
Yeah, you'd have to spend a year just being someone completely different, which would be exhausting, right? Be absolutely exhausting. But no, it's a brilliant thing. And your face when you won, I absolutely love that. I do love winners' reactions. It's so much fun. But the only thing that I always think that I find quite scary, even maybe because I don't know, I've never done one, but the on-stage question, I'm always really interested to see how people feel in doing that. Tell me a little bit about your on-stage question, how you felt at that point in time.
You know what? By that point of the competition, I already knew that I'd won the Best in Interview award, because Miss Great Britain, they give out the sort of, there's side awards and then there's a couple of awards that actually feed into the scoring. And one of those is the Best in Interview. So you will know if you've done the best in the interview before the onstage question. So at that point, I'd already known that I won Best in Interview. So I'll start to feel the pressure a bit, because it felt like it was getting really close. And I was like, as long as I don't mess this up, there's a good chance that I might, come top 3 or, top 2. Anything is better than not even coming in the top 20 last year. So I was like, I just want to give myself the best possible shot. But the trick with on-stage questions is actually something that I learned probably fairly early on, actually. They always ask you a question, but what they really want to know is who you are and why you should win. That's what they want, you know. A win is never won on an on-stage question. You know, you can seal the deal, but you're not going to win if you haven't performed well in the other rounds on the basis of your on-stage question. However, you absolutely will lose it if it's not good. So I basically prepped where I had, you know, you got a minute to answer. I had 45 seconds of something that was pre-prepared. So, you know, bit about my story, bit about my platform and what I really wanted to do if I won and what I wanted the judges to remember about me in those final moments where they're writing down their last score for me. I was like, this is what I want you to hear. And then I did practice, but I also trusted myself enough that I could answer a question for 15 seconds. So you get given the questions in advance. I think Miss Great Britain circulate 25 to 30 on stage questions. So just having a line or two that answers the question and that naturally feeds into what you want to say, because I think there's a tendency when you've pre-prepared something or a section of your answer to just say that regardless of what you're asked. And actually you will get deducted marks if you're not answering the question, because it's really obvious. And, you know, you've probably seen this at pageants where there is on stage questions as well. You can really tell. So having that line or two where you're answering the question, but that naturally flows. So the whole thing just, it does feel like, you know, you're there completely talking on the spot. But at the same time, if they ask you a question and you're there and you're like, okay, I have no idea, you still have 45 seconds worth of stuff that you can still say.
That's brilliant. I love that. I always just wanted to know how it kind of worked, because I was like, oh, this is exciting. This is exciting. This is nail biting stuff, you know. But that is a really, really good insight into that. Thank you so much. So we're going to talk about your campaign, which is Time to Grieve. So let's talk about that and tell people that's watching what that's all about.
Yeah, so I spoke a little bit about it earlier, but when I was 18, I lost my mum rather suddenly in a car accident. And at the time, she was my last surviving parent, because I lost my dad to cancer when I was 9, which is one of the reasons I really love Miss Great Britain, because one of our charity partners is Cancer Research. So it's been amazing to work with them, especially since winning as well. And just to fundraise for them, it's been incredible. So for me, grief's always been a really prevalent part of my life. I've also lost all 4 of my grandparents. I've lost 2 really close aunts. Grief has been something that I've always been surrounded by. And the older I've got, the more aware of it I've become. And the thing that I love about pageants is that it gives you the opportunity to talk about things that you're really passionate about. And when I first came back into pageantry, I think I was trying to do too many things and talk about too many things. And the one thing that always really resonated with me was grief, because as British people, we are terrible at talking about grief. We are, you know, it's a difficult subject to talk about, especially when it's something that's so personal and, you know, no 2 losses are ever the same. And I felt really alone in my own grief journey throughout the years, because you've not wanted to talk about it yourself, then you don't want to make someone else feel awkward. So a few years ago now, I actually started this series of Instagram lives called Living with Loss, where people come onto Instagram live with me and we just talk about their loved one, about their experience of grief. And I think we ran about 30 episodes of the Instagram lives. I always say we, because I like saying it's like me and the person, not just me on my own. And it got over 40,000 views, because it really resonated with people. And the fact that there were so many open conversations about grief, it seemed to really land. So for me, I thought, okay, well, you know, grief is, you know, it's beneficial for me to talk about, and it seems to be resonating well. But the one common theme that kept coming up in these conversations was people who have had really bad experiences with their employer. And in my day job, I'm actually a qualified solicitor. So the first thing I did was like log on to Google and have a look at what the legal protections us as employees get in the UK. And I was really shocked to find out that actually there is no legal entitlement to any time off work at all when a loved one dies, let alone for that to be paid. So I began a campaign very shortly after. It was, I think I officially launched my government petition, the first one we ever did, and that was in December of 2024. And I wanted to get a legal right to paid time off work when someone dies. Because at the moment, it's entirely down to employers' discretion. And there are some fantastic employers out there doing the right thing. But there are unfortunately a lot of employers who don't do the right thing. And when they're left to their own devices, you know, the horror stories I've heard people be denied any time off work. It's like, my mum's just died. Okay, well, you need to come back to work. And it's like, well, I can't. And then you've just got the more admin-y bits as well, you know, like we all work 9 to 5 or even, you know, beyond 9 to 5. Most places are already open 9 to 5. And if you're trying to deal with all the admin, you know, solicitors and funerals, everything that comes with it without any time off work, it's just impossible. I don't know if you try picking up a prescription whilst you work 9 to 5. It's virtually impossible. I get prescriptions sat in the pharmacy for 3 weeks before I can go and collect them. So by the end of the first petition, we actually gained 3,101 signatures and had 2 written responses from the government promising to consult really widely on it. The first response was basically, no, not interested. And then I didn't give up. And the second response was, okay, we're going to consult. And that government consultation is actually fairly recently closed as well. And my whole Time to Grieve campaign has just snowballed from that one decision to make a government petition. I've been on Sky News, BBC News, I've been in the Telegraph, which was wild, talking about it, because a lot of the action behind the scenes is what feeds into that wider discussion and the wider awareness. And I mean, it could completely be fluke, but since I started talking about bereavement leave, you know, a year and a half ago, nearly 18 months ago, there's been so much movement in the area generally, and also directly from charities. So, you know, grief charities it wasn't necessarily on their radar or a priority for them. It's now a huge priority. So there's been so many little victories along the way, and one day we will get there. But for now, the fight continues.
Oh, that's amazing. Honestly, I can really, really appreciate that, because you're right, it is really difficult and down to each employer. For even going through grief for myself a lot in 1 year. I mean, I was lucky, touch wood, that I had a supportive workplace, but there are so many workplaces that don't have that, and it's such an amazing thing you do, and I wish you all the best of luck with it. It's fabulous. So, very exciting. So, the Queen's Playbook Pageant Planner. I managed to say that right. That was a lot of P's in that. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so a big part of my journey has been growth. And I was the first person in the history of Miss Great Britain to not place in the top 20 and then come back and win the whole thing. So naturally, people started asking me, what did you do? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, do you know what? There's so much amazing knowledge out there in pageant land, but actually there's not a resource really. And I talked a little bit about my blue notepad earlier, because I'm a lists person. I love writing things down. I like checklists. I like packing lists. I like making many lists. If you saw my list, covered in lists all the time. So for me, I thought, do you know what? I just kind of started making it. And then my partner said to me, he was like, have you ever thought about selling these? And I thought, well, not really. I just kind of started making it on a bit of a whim. And I thought, I wonder how it could look if I put something like this together. And then the idea started forming around, you know, if I was to do it, how would that look alongside being Miss Great Britain? And how could I make the most of the opportunity? So I worked really hard. I must admit, the planner was created start to finish in about 6 weeks, because when I get an idea, I'm all in. So I did not stop until that planner was finished. And I decided that I was going to create the planner, get it printed, get it done. And every penny of profit from that planner goes to Cancer Research UK and A Sisterhood this year. And I've not long sold out my first batch of planners. I ordered 50 planners and 50 people have bought a planner from me. So hopefully they still think that they're good, a good use of money. But we've raised £680 for Cancer Research UK and A Sisterhood from the sale of the planners. And I worked really hard to make them as profitable as possible so that we could really maximise that. But also, the more I thought about it, the more it's become a bit of a passion project of mine to really improve accessibility in pageantry, because there are some incredible pageant coaches out there, and I have really benefited from their knowledge and wisdom. And if anyone wants any coaching recommendations, I'm your girl. I've tried loads of them. But for me, coaching is really expensive. And whilst coaching has its huge benefits and it's bespoke and it's individual, there's also a lot of knowledge that I just think should be more widely available for pageant girls, that's just, more generic, that can help so many people. So I really hope that my planner has, opened that door a little bit and encouraged people to think in a different way. I think one of my favourite things that's happened since I've done the planner is someone messaged me and they said, look, I've been competing in pageantry for 2, 3, 4 years and I've never won. And I've always wondered what's been going wrong. And I bought one of your planners and I was having a look through it. And I realised I've actually never asked the question of, how is this scored? I've just sort of turned up and I've just, not done that work behind the scenes of actually dissecting, exactly what is scored. And that's one of the first chapters in the planner is like, go and ask your director how this is scored, because we can't prep you to do well if you don't know how it's scored. So it's been amazing. The feedback has been incredible and we've made such a difference for the charities as well. It's just been amazing.
Absolutely incredible. And for both of these things, I've got it scanning down the bottom, the Time to Grieve and your pageant planner websites. And also, if you want to find you on Instagram, what's your Instagram handle?
So I'm Alice with 2 E's. So ALICEE Cutler. And then I think my surname's at the bottom as well.
Yeah, fabulous. Oh, it's absolutely incredible what you do. It's been so good to speak to you this evening. You're doing amazing things and you're having a fantastic year and you're only halfway through it. Well, sort of.
I know.
Yeah. Halfway through. Yeah. It goes so quick, doesn't it? But I'm so looking forward to seeing what you're going to do for the rest of the year. And we'll be following you and supporting you all the way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been fabulous to chat to you once again.
Oh, thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.